loud, so this way I can get my volume up. Because we're sitting here, we don't have to bounce back and forth between the mics, if that's all right. What I'd like to do is kind of walk you through the process of the two tragedies that occurred this last weekend, then ask Deputy Chief Summers and Deputy Chief Mathis to kind of go through the details of that, if that's all right. Because we had two tragedies, and I'm going to kind of talk about those two processes because they're uniquely different, and you need to understand what's going on. We had a police officer from Twin Rivers Police Department was shot 4 times. That is investigated by the Sacramento Police Department, not the Twin Rivers Police Department. It was done in the city of Sacramento on city streets, and we investigate that. That investigation is done by our homicide team. That's to investigate serious shootings and serious events of that nature. So that investigation started with us and continues with us. Regardless of the fact of whether Mr. Smith is a suspect or not, we complete that investigation until it's in, which there's a lot of evidence. We'll go through that of what's left to be done, because a lot of that investigation has to be done. The in-custody death of Tyrone Smith in our custody is a separate investigation. Okay? That is being investigated by 4 different agencies. We're being one of them, and it's a unique group. There's a group doing the officer-involved shooting, that the officer was shot. A completely separate group does the investigation of his in-custody death. He died in our custody. That's our responsibility. We have to do that investigation. Additionally, we called in a favor with the Sacramento County District Attorney's Office. They publicly said that they would not do independent investigations of any officer-involved shootings in this county. Well, we called and pulled in a favor and said, we would like you to come in and do an independent investigation of our department. We're very transparent in everything we do. The more people that look at what we do, the more transparent we are, the more you can hold us accountable for our actions, because we're committed to that transparency. The DA's office is doing their investigation. Additionally, we have the Office of Public Safety Accountability. That office does that investigation as well, another independent review. And lastly, you have the coroner's office, who is the most critical piece right now. They do their review and they determine what the cause of death is, because we don't know. What we do know is there's no trauma to Tyrone Smith as reported by them. They're an independent review. Now we've got to figure out what that happens. What happens with that? So you have the investigative foremost.
When you lose a loved one or somebody in your family, there's never enough good reasons for that to happen. I understand. I get it. And as a mayor of the city, I'm just telling you that we are all here making the top commitment to get to the bottom of it, to make sure we answer all the questions that we can answer, whether it be the Sac Police Department or Twin Rivers at another meeting. Our commitment is to make sure that justice is served, first and foremost.
Officer from the Twin Rivers Police Department went to make a traffic stop on a white Suburban. As he tried to make the stop on the Suburban, he noticed there was 2 individuals inside the car. He activated his overheads. The car continued on. Then the car pulled over and the passenger got out. The officer yelled at him to get back in the car. At that point, the Suburban took off again. The officer then went in pursuit of the Suburban and drove around a particular neighborhood, this neighborhood right around Branch Street. The vehicle stops again. The driver gets out and starts running into a backyard and around the 3700 block of Branch. The officer gets out of his car, he pursues after, and they have a confrontation. At that point, he backs off Mr. Smith. Mr. Smith is larger than him, and he pulls out his OC and he sprays. At that point, the suspect in this case pulls out his handgun and shoots the officer 4 times. He shoots him in the abdomen, he shoots him in the leg, and he shoots him in both arms. The officer reaches for his gun to turn fire, and as he grabs his gun, his arm's not functioning. At that point, he runs out to the front yard asking for the community for help. And he calls for help, and he gets on the radio, and he asks for our agency for help. At that point, our officers start responding. The suspect, Mr. Smith in this case, goes back to his Suburban and takes off and leaves the area. Our officers respond. We call for medical assistance. Medical assistance comes, transports the officer, or the Twin Rivers officer, to UC Davis Medical Center to get medical treatment. At that point, our department started deploying other officers out to the scene to start an investigation of finding out what occurred. Our starting point was the vehicle and the information that the officer had supplied. We understand the controversy that's around when an officer gets shot, and then the police department takes that suspect to jail or takes him to where we were, to our headquarters, and he expires or he dies in our custody. We totally understand the controversy surrounding
Part of the, yes.
You did me like that. You did me like that. You do not do nobody like that.
Part of the thing that we tried to do at that point was to turn on our in-car camera system that we have in our cars. When they get to the first one, the in-car camera system was not working. At that point, because the in-car camera system was not working on that vehicle, it was an apprehension. And at this point, they're walking him out. If you saw, he went to the ground. Okay. What happens, according to the officers that were there, is they're walking him out, and they're walking him. He ends up going to his right when he goes down. They were taking him to a vehicle to the left of them. As they're walking, one of the officers notices that he's kind of going to the right. He says, "What are you doing? We're over here on the left." He continues on going to the right. As you watch, his feet start going forward, and he ordered the, yes. Part of the,
didn't be like that. Didn't be like that. You do not do nobody like that.
Part of the thing that we tried to do at that point was to turn on our in-car camera system that we have in our cars. When they get to the first one, the in-car camera system was not working. At that point, because the in-car camera system was not working on that vehicle.
Okay, thank you, thank you. So now you're ready to ask your questions, right? Okay, so that I don't miss anyone, I'm going to ask you to line up in the middle. David, you have another microphone? I don't want to miss, no. You don't need a microphone?
My question is for Chief Brazil. What is the term positional asphyxiation to you? What do you know about positional asphyxiation? And tell me what your department's policy is on positional asphyxiation, because we all know positional asphyxiation does not leave marks.
The coroner's office will be able to tell us what the cause of death is. And if it's the positional asphyxiation, that's what they're going to report. And that's what the coroner reported in the newspaper today.
After the chef lady, because she has the mic. What's your name?
My name is Deborah Gibson. I have a question for the mayor, so you guys can step aside if you can step up, please.
Okay. The question is for the mayor.
What I want to ask Kelly is, that when you knocked at my door that morning, you told me personally that you were going to do everything to get our community on track. We're not the Maloofs. We're not Old Park. We are Del Paso Heights. I want you to tell me to my face that you're going to help see this through in the Del Paso Heights community.
What I don't understand is, how does the news media get the information first on the scene and it's correct? Then you guys a whole day later, when it comes with something, and you want us to believe it, but they can get their cameras and go out there and see exactly what we see.
Okay.
We saw it, and you guys can't tell us any different. Autopsy or no autopsy. We saw what we saw, and we're tired, because we're tired of being treated like criminals, and we're not. We're sitting there.
Got it investigated, but will you let the community know when we will have a meeting about Twin Rivers?
Absolutely. I don't know if everyone heard his question, but he wanted to know, although we won't be discussing the portion of the Twin Rivers involvement in this, will we be coming back to the community? Absolutely. Absolutely. Because I agree with you. I've had more complaints on Twin Rivers than any other police department in the city.
Wow!